Eyes across Jamaica. News from every angle.
Let's see what is popping in the news. The Kingston police have commenced an investigation surrounding the death of a man who was discovered shot to death at his home in Horizon Park on Thursday, March 4th. The deceased has been identified as Kenrick Genius, otherwise called Genius, laborer, also of Horizon Park. Reports by the police are that shortly after midnight on Thursday, Genius was dragged from his house to the outside and shot to death in his yard. The police were summoned and upon arrival, the victim was discovered lying in the front of his yard with multiple gunshot wounds. He was transported to hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Following his death, a number of his relatives protested that Genius was allegedly shot and killed by a group of police officers.
About 8:27 this morning, a.m., that is, from a resident who turned out to later be identified as the mother of the deceased, Mr. Kenrick Genius. The reports that we received was that mother received early reports that Mr. Genius was shot by police officers at about 1 a.m. and we got no report of any fatal shooting by members of the JCF until we received that report. We came here, a team was mobilized and arrived at the scene, and we met with the JCF responding team from the Spanish Town Division, who themselves were investigating now a murder not involving members of the JCF. And so we are at this stage still trying to determine whether or not the deceased was shot in any altercation with the police, or he was shot by men who are not members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. The forensic team of Indicom and the scene of crime of the Jamaica Constabulary Force are processing the scene, and we have interviewed some witnesses. We are to get more information, but so far we have not been able to determine the source of the fatal shooting.
I understand so that persons allege that police take up spent shells and there was 3 spent shells. Those 3 spent shells, that 3 spent casing that remain, could you identify or what weapon those spent shells come from? Spent casings?
Well, they are likely to be determined by the ballistics process, but that is to come. Testing will be done with respect to firearms which may be available. But as I said, we are in the embryonic stages of the investigation. And so a lot more work needs to be done to determine, as you would say, who done it.
And then it would normally be the protocol where the police would have normally informed Indicom if in case there was a police fatal shooting.
Yes, the protocol is that once any member of the security force is involved in a shooting, injury, or fatal shooting, police control would advise Indicom, them having been advised by the officer, him or herself, or their divisional commanders. That did not happen today because, as I said, my information from the police, they were acting on information that they were investigating a murder because a body was seen along the road. And so they arrived here at around 8 o'clock. But we got our call at 8:27 from the mother of the deceased to say that she got information that it was the police who shot her son. So as I said, it is a lot of information which is not yet verified, and a proper investigative process verifies information before treating it as fact.
Is it also possible that it could be men posing as police personnel carry out this attack?
There are so many variables and possibilities, so it is possible. But as I said, at this stage, we are going to be relying a lot, it would seem, more on the ballistics information that will be collected from the scene to assist us in determining who was involved in this matter.
Alan, my final question to you. Speaking to the police, were they saying that any members of the force were in operation in this general era or control Was there any operations there?
We are trying to determine who, if so far we are told no one was in this particular space. We are doing much more work, speaking to the senior supervisors in the division, and we will be getting more information later, and we'll be able to assist the family as we go along, and where appropriate we will certainly update the media.
And then the residents are cooperating so far?
The residents are cooperating.
To the best of your knowledge, sir, is this gentleman who died, Mr. Ginas, a person that the police has any encounter with in recent times?
We have no information as to his antecedents at this time. So as I said, we are still in the early stages of the inquiry. And so we will advise you where we can, where it's appropriate to do so in the near future.
And I know this wouldn't be a part of Unicum, but you know there's a ongoing gun shoes in the area because there was a gentleman, there was a murder yesterday, so it's possible this probably can come off or reprisals. So the police advice who said that there was some gun shoot going on in the area.
I did not get any information as to the gang feud. We all know that the areas are really, should I say, inundated with gang feuds. But as to whether or not we should speak to this being an incident, that is really speculation. And really, we are not doing that at all. We are really searching for the facts, ferreting out the truth.
As we move on, Jamaican YouTuber Nicola Campbell was shot dead outside her home in St. Andrew on Tuesday. According to the police, the 36-year-old was returning home from the Kingston Public Hospital, KPH, where she worked as a registration clerk when a gunman approached and opened fire, hitting her several times. She was pronounced dead at the scene, the police said. The mother of three regularly shared videos of herself and her children on her YouTube channel, Nicola Campbell's Journey. The comment section of her channel were flooded with shock and condolences following news of her death. The police have yet to establish a motive for the killing. 4 port employees arrested. Almost $2 billion in cocaine seized since the start of this week. Eyes Across Jamaica understands that 4 port employees are among 5 people charged in connection with a major drug bust at Kingston Freeport Terminal last month. On February 11th, the Jamaica Customs Contraband Enforcement Team and police from the Narcotics Division were conducting operations on the port when they found 14 bags with compressed ganja weighing more than 1,500 pounds hidden in a container. The confiscated ganja has been valued at $6.1 million. The ganja was hidden in a transshipment container which arrived in Jamaica from Mexico, with its destination being Toronto, Canada. Following investigations, the police discovered that the ganja had been taken onto the port by a 38-year-old technician from Seaview Gardens, Kingston 11. According to the police, the technician, whose name is being withheld, was allowed safe passage and escorted by members of the port security guards. The crane operator then removed the Mexican containers from their positions and allowed the courier to hide the bags with the ganja before replacing the containers. This was a well-organized operation that could not have been successful without collusion among port workers. It has been a long-standing trend for drug traffickers to contaminate legitimate cargo, a police source told The Observer. He said the narcotics police are determined to work with their local and international partners to put a dent in drug trafficking activities, especially as it relates to Jamaica's ports. We now move to On the Brighter Side. Shakira Ayton was overjoyed as she received the keys to her new house from Food for the Poor through a donation from the National Baking Company Foundation. "I feel wonderful. I give thanks," said Ayton, a single mother of 3 children. Ayton was living in what she described as terrible conditions, as her then house, made from plywood, had been rotting away and the roof was infested with rodents. These circumstances, compounded by being in a small, crowded area, exposed her and her children to the harsh realities that they would be vulnerable to the COVID-19 if it ever affected one member of the household. After expressing her concerns to the counselor for her area, it was recommended that she apply to the Food for the Poor program, which, through the support of the National Baking Company Foundation, was committed to donating 10 houses to families in need. All 10 houses have now been delivered and the new homeowners have all expressed their gratitude.